the important topic of human trafficking that affects all of us. Also, I serve as the current chair of the board for the Purple Door. I understand the need to continue the dialogue and raise awareness about this horrible crime so that we all can be part of the solution. As we move through the symposium, if you have a question, please send an email to Natalie Villarreal, Del Mar College's Director of External and Board Relations. Her email is located in the chat box, and she will address the questions with the presenters toward the end of the event. Del Mar College has hosted this event for several years and is proud to continue the collaboration with Representative Hunter's office via video conference today. Representative Hunter is a great supporter of Del Mar College and its mission, and we thank him for his support of higher education, his service, and his leadership. Representative Todd Hunter currently serves in the Texas House of Representatives for District 32. He serves on and has served on numerous important House committees, including the Ways and Means, Elections, Calendars, Urban Affairs, and Higher Education. Additionally, Hunter served on the Powerful Appropriations Committee for 2 terms and was named chairman of the Subcommittee on Education and also vice chair of the State Affairs Committee. Originally from Oklahoma, Representative Todd Hunter moved to Corpus Christi, Texas in 1978, where he currently practices civil law with the law office of Todd Hunter. He is married to Alexis Taylor Hunter. They have 3 children, Todd Jr., Michael, and Christina. And recently I've also seen some really adorable pictures of some grandchildren. Representative Hunter is also known for his passionate work ethic and the ability to reach across party lines on the most important issues facing our state, like public education, windstorm reform, suicide prevention, economic development, and our topic of discussion today, human trafficking prevention. I introduce to you Todd Hunter.
Thank you, Tammy, and I appreciate everybody that's logged on. This is a very, very important topic. Let me make some comments before I introduce some of the other folks that are being involved. And I want to make a special plug, not only for New Life Refuge and the Purple Door, because sometimes the issue of human trafficking and domestic violence get intertwined. And I want to thank these organizations because not only are they making a difference locally, they're making it difference statewide and nationally. So I want to thank both of those groups, and particularly Michael, I see you, and I want to thank law enforcement. You all have done tremendous, and a lot of people don't know, which I'll let you talk about in a little bit, about the success in stopping human trafficking in our local area. I want everybody to know this is not going to be our only human trafficking symposium. We're going to do a series, approximately 3. We plan to do a second and a third. The second, I have been in conversations with some of our prosecutors, the Nueces County District Attorney's Office, and we're going to be talking with our federal prosecutors, and we're going to be involving the DA as well as the federal office, and we're going to be dealing with a lot of the specifics and areas where some of the law enforcement are involved, but the prosecution of the laws are important. So they'll be engaged in our second series, and then we will be talking about some other areas like faith-based communities to be involved as well. And we'll keep everybody posted. The other thing I want you to know, this is a call to action. If you're interested in getting involved in battling human trafficking, you need to let us know. You have resources on this teleconference. Get in contact with us. This doesn't stop today. This is step 1 in moving forward. This is an ill that needs to be stopped. And so I want you to know that after the conference, please contact Angie Flores from my office if you want to be engaged. And you know, the Purple Door, New Life Refuge, they have contacts, as well as Del Mar, who's been tremendous. And thank you, Del Mar, for being on the forefront of this important issue. I do want to, before I make some comments about human trafficking, because a lot of people say, how'd you get involved in this? I want to make a note. Today, 100 years ago today, August 18, 1920, the 19th Amendment was ratified, leading the way for the women's right to vote. And that's being honored today. But I want to brag on Texas, because according to our Texas Secretary of State's office, who I'll introduce in a minute, Texas had a head start. Women in Texas won the right to vote earlier in 1918. So Texas is always ahead of the rest. And I got that information from our Texas Secretary of State. I probably stole her thunder, but we'll give her an opportunity to explain. But that's a great day today, and I want everybody to know that it's important to all of us. Let's talk about human trafficking. Let me just tell you from my perspective. It's awful. I want you to think about this. What is human trafficking? It's the enslavery and prostitution of children, men and women. This has no place in this state, nation, or world. Now, why are we bringing it up right now? You know, it's a constant issue, which Minta and Michael will tell you about. It doesn't stop. But Texas can certainly be the leader for all the rest of the states to follow. Now, during this pandemic, it's unfortunate that we've received some statistics that slavery of children has increased. That's awful. You know, we get pulled to issues, but there's nothing as important as protecting families. And I'm going to tell you something. There's no better place to set the standard of stopping human trafficking than South Texas. It's a mi familia area, and we're going to do everything we can to get the laws in Texas to be a model for the rest of the nation. I got involved many, many years ago, and let me highlight in 2009, Minta Moore got a hold of me. Many of the colleges got a hold of me. A lot of the life and faith areas got a hold of me. And a group called Blue Nation got a hold of me. And they were telling me about human trafficking. I couldn't believe it existed. But let me tell you, everybody, it's an ill, it's a business that needs to stop. And sometimes we get the law of human trafficking mixed up with other laws. And so we as Texas need to address this, toughen the laws, but we've got to write new laws, because human trafficking has not necessarily been specific in the laws of Texas. So one of the things we're doing today is using this as a platform for a very, very good outline. And I want to tell everybody, if you want to look up, I work with Representative Sophronia Thompson out of Houston. Very good friend, has spoken with our groups here. She's excellent, been a leader in anti-human trafficking. And in 2015, I was honored to be a joint author with her on HB 10, which was one of the laws where we're trying to revamp human trafficking. And since 2009, the Coastal Bend has been involved in interim study legislation and others to educate and bring awareness to this topic. Now, let me give you some information. If you're interested, let me give you some data. Texas Attorney General has some information on human trafficking. It's estimated 25 million people are enslaved worldwide. It's estimated 234,000 victims of labor trafficking in Texas at any given time. That's awful. And it's estimated there's 79,000 victims of youth minor sex trafficking in Texas at any given time. This doesn't need to be any place, but Texas can do the start to stop it. And I don't mind being out front and being pushy. We got to stand up to stop these sort of things. The Coastal Bend has been great in this effort. We have a lot of groups that the rest of the state watches. I've been involved in laws like non-disclosure and criminal law reform to really try to help victims so they're not punished because they've been through the trafficking situation. Let me explain, we need to do a good job in educating. I want everybody to think, human trafficking, you might observe it. You might see something. You might see some suspicion. Report it. Let me give you some contact. The National Human Trafficking Hotline, 888-373-7888. 888-373-7888. That is the National Human Trafficking Hotline. Pay attention in the community. You see some strange acts, report it. Also, I want to throw out a thank you to Texas CASA in the Coastal Bend, the Corpus Christi area, CASAs. And, you know, from Clayburg to Nueces, Aransas, San Patricio, they do a good job because they're basically the advocates for a lot of these victims and children. And they're a good source as well. There's also the Texas Human Trafficking Resource Center through the Health and Human Services that connects staff, healthcare providers, and victims to local, state, federal resources for help. So I want you to know, overall, we want to get education out, resources out. We want to let you know that we are going to combat this, and we're starting today to get you involved so we can then go into the legislative process to get laws that work in modern day times. The other thing I want you to know, and Minta knows this, human trafficking is different than some of these other issues. Remember, this is a business. I hear it's over $1 billion or more business. Prostituting children, enslaving children. There's a difference between the traffickers and those that sell. And so we have to create laws that direct ourselves to the folks that are involved. But I want to alert you and caution you, if you see anything, please report it. And I want you to know this, I got called the other day as soon as we published that we were going to do this by people who were watching activity, and I gave them the hotlines and the resource centers to call. There's nothing wrong to report. So overall, I want to tell you all, thank you for joining this conference. It is a call to action. And I'm proud to be in the forefront working with all the groups and all of you that are interested and want to get involved. We save anybody. That's worth it. It's worth it. And this is a great day to start, and I really do appreciate everybody getting involved. I'm going to introduce a good friend of ours. Our good friend has been involved with battling human trafficking and has done a great job in getting the word out on what to watch for in this human trafficking business. So I want to introduce our Secretary of State, Ruth Hughs, and let me give you some information and then I'll turn it over to her. She was sworn in as the 113th Texas Secretary of State on August 19, 2019. So her year anniversary is tomorrow. And Secretary Hughs is one of 6 state officials named by the Texas Constitution to form the executive department of the state. And in addition to serving as the Texas Chief Elections Officer, Secretary Hughs is also senior advisor and liaison to the governor for board and Mexican affairs and is the state's chief international protocol officer. Prior to her being appointed, she was a licensed attorney and a small business owner. She received a Bachelor of Arts from the University of Texas and a Juris Doctor degree from Rutgers, and she earned a certificate in leader development at the U.S. Army War College's National Security Seminar. That's all good, but now I'm getting to the most important thing at all. See, I read you her bio. Now, the most important thing about Secretary of State Hughs. She's from Corpus Christi. What better person? And listen to this, everybody. She's a Ray Texan. Can you believe that? So here we have this head honcho coming in and leading the state, and we got to applaud Secretary of State Ruth Hughs. Thank you for speaking here today.
Thank you, Representative Hunter. It is always such a pleasure to be anywhere with you, and I really appreciate and enjoy your passion so much, and your outrage on the subject of today's symposium is so appropriate and so on point. So really glad to be here. You mentioned in the beginning the anniversary of Texas being the first state in the South to ratify the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. Thank you for highlighting that. Were we not in COVID, you could see the display that we have here in our reception room, just recognizing how important this is. And we'll be having some additional events next week on the 26th and other important dates around this. But in fact, you're correct. Texas was the first in the South, and then Tennessee was the last to make it official. Unfortunately, at that time, it was only white women, and so we still had a lot more work to go and continued on that path. So thank you for highlighting that. But for the group, good afternoon, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Ruth Ruggiero Hughs. I have the honor of serving as the 113th Texas Secretary of State and being a grad of Gray High School. And I'm so glad to be able to join all of you. I hope you're all staying safe amidst this crazy current circumstances that we find ourselves living in. I did grow up in Corpus Christi, as the representative mentioned, and the Coastal Bend is so near and dear to my heart. So I'm really especially pleased to be able to have this time with you to discuss this important subject. And I do want to start by thanking Representative Hunter for inviting me to speak on this important issue, and Del Mar College for hosting. Thank you to Dr. Escamilla and to Natalie and Tammy and the entire team for really doing such a tremendous job on this. Representative Hunter has been an active advocate in the fight against human trafficking, particularly in sponsoring legislation to protect survivors and to punish those who engage in the trafficking of persons in Texas. So I really want to thank you for your leadership and your initiative in leading this fight against human trafficking. I know you see this symposium as an opportunity to really start to look at what more can we do? How can the legislature craft laws to do even more to help combat this? So thank you for that. And of course, I want to thank Angie Flores, your Chief of Staff, for helping to put this symposium together. And my team on the phone, Corey Rose, Stephen Chang, and Teresa Farfan, who are really helping me highlight this aspect of this work. And I'll share as much as we can as an office to also bring this to light. And of course, I want to thank each and every one of you on this call and on this video chat for taking time from your schedules to learn more about how we can work together and address this issue. We're joined this afternoon by representatives from government, law enforcement, and local nonprofit organizations. And the work that all of you do on behalf of our communities really do help to make Texas a better place. I also want to share, if you're not already familiar, that Governor Abbott and First Lady Cecilia Abbott have really made this fight against human trafficking a top priority. When I first started at the Attorney General's office, then Attorney General Governor Abbott at that time was very involved in making sure that we had laws that really helped to enforce and address these issues and bring criminals to justice. And now our First Lady works tirelessly on these issues, trying to bring awareness to the problem to help protect and prevent victims of these crimes. As Texans, we are all proud of all of the many great things that our state has accomplished and the many ways in which we lead the nation. But there's always ways that we can work as a state to strive to improve. We want to lead the fight in combating human trafficking, as Representative Hunter mentioned, and we really understand that in order to solve the problems that our state faces, we're going to have to first acknowledge they exist. And human trafficking, unfortunately, is a problem that exists in Texas. The University of Texas estimates there are currently over 300,000 victims of human trafficking in our state. And of these, over 79,000 are minors and youth experiencing sex trafficking. Approximately 234,000 adult victims of labor trafficking are also in our state. So we have the second highest number of reports to the National Human Trafficking Hotline. And we know that 1 in 7 endangered runaways reported to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children are likely victims of sex trafficking. These are not statistics I wish I were here sharing. I'd like to really change those numbers, and I know everyone on the call feels the same way. These are stark realities that our state faces. But make no mistake, as Texans, we've never been afraid of coming together to face our challenges, and we will not stop now. Together, we're going to combat human trafficking head on and make clear that the Lone Star State will not stand for these heinous crimes. One of the ways that Texas is confronting the scourge is by coordinating efforts among different sectors, and the business sector plays an important front in this fight. In 2016, at the direction of the legislature, our office established a human trafficking prevention program or partnership called Texas Businesses Against Trafficking. We call it TBAT for short, and it helps businesses in our state come together to share training resources, best practices, and information to help combat human trafficking. The program is a partnership that recognizes businesses for providing employee training to identify and address human trafficking, prohibiting the use of business funds to patronize a business that's part of a commercial sex industry, and participating in public awareness or educational campaigns and other requirements. If you're on this call and your business or one you're aware of is already taking steps to prevent human trafficking, you may be eligible to join TBAT as either a partner or as an associate. There's no fee to join, but there is a membership requirement of sharing best practices with other members and providing that wonderful training to your employees, which is a tremendous benefit. Our businesses and our partners are large as well as one-person employers who recognize the importance of being on alert and working together to fight against trafficking and keep our communities safe. One well-known member is American Airlines, who joined TBAT last year. They shared with members the story of a ticket agent who had been trained to recognize the signs of human trafficking and flagged 2 young teenagers who were unsuspecting that the modeling job they thought they were flying out to in New York had actually been booked on a fraudulent credit card and only a one-way ticket was purchased. When they tried to call their contact, they learned it was tied to a burner phone that had been abandoned. Had that agent not recognized the sign and let those young girls board the plane, their families might never have heard or seen from them again. As of today, TBAT's membership is 11 employers strong with 7 partners and 4 associates. But we need more, and we want to take this opportunity to call on Texas businesses to learn more about this initiative. In October of last year, we hosted our first TBAT Partnership Forum at the State Capitol in Austin to help promote this program. And as part of the forum, we heard directly from survivors and listened to businesses within our state share insights on how they're impacted by human trafficking on a daily basis and how they've been working to address this critical issue. Last December, I was again back in Corpus for the unveiling of the Can You See Me billboard campaign, where I had the honor of joining Andrea Sparks from the governor's office, who leads the governor's anti-child sex trafficking team. as well as Nueces District County Attorney Mark Gonzalez and Sheriff John Hopper. And of course, we were joined by Representative Hunter, Representative Herrera, as well as Senator Chuy Hinojosa. Everyone can play a part in helping to prevent these crimes by helping to keep an eye out and reporting suspicious activities to the authorities. Cooperation is key in confronting human trafficking because the issues that affect us all really transcend any barriers of race, income, socioeconomic status. We must do all we can to work together in combating these despicable crimes. To that end, businesses, agencies, local governments, law enforcement, and nonprofit organizations across our state must partner together to maximize our reach in spreading awareness on human trafficking. Now more than ever, and especially in light of COVID-19, we need to be even more vigilant and not let up on these efforts. Traffickers have used COVID-19 to coerce victims to remain under their control at a time when victims are most desperate for a sense of belonging and need to access basic necessities which traffickers promise to provide. We're also seeing increases in the number of vulnerable youth in isolation and a reduction in protective factors such as the supportive relationships they enjoyed at school, work, and social clubs. These have really caused young people to spend more time online. There, predators prey upon our youth and exploit their desire for a sense of belonging. As an example, just last week, the Killeen Police Department Special Victims Unit, along with the Texas Department of Public Safety's Human Trafficking Program, concluded a 2-day child trafficking sting. And I want to mention, and the Representative Hunter spoke to this earlier, I think they had called it a prostitution sting. Young girls cannot prostitute themselves. They are victims of crimes, and we really need to distinguish that. These are children. They are not prostitutes. They are children, and we need to continue to do everything we can to protect them and to realize that this is seriously and truly a crime. In this particular sting, 9 suspects just last week had contacted officers through various social media platforms, and they made agreements for sexual acts with girls that they believed were 15 to 16 years old and agreed on payments that included money, drugs, and/or alcohol. So while those that continue to perpetrate these heinous crimes intensify their efforts, we have to rise to meet them in kind. The task at hand is difficult, but we will succeed. Last week, the White House announced more than $35 million in Justice Department grants to organizations providing safe housing for victims of trafficking. And U.S. Attorney General Barr called human trafficking an evil scourge on our nation. Here in Texas, businesses seeking to make a difference in combating human trafficking can learn more about our TBAT program on our website, sos.texas, spelled out, .gov. And you can also get involved by following the efforts of the human trafficking awareness programs that are put forth by state agencies such as the Governor's Office, Attorney General's Office, or that of your local law enforcement or nonprofit organizations in your area. By continuing to work together to share resources, best practices, and raising awareness of the signs of human trafficking and how to prevent it, we are going to help to forge an even brighter future for all Texans. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Hughs. We appreciate you, and we really do appreciate your words. We appreciate your engagement. We appreciate you doing what you're doing to combat human trafficking. And we also appreciate you because what better voice than a person from Corpus Christi? We really do appreciate that. So thank you. At this time, I'm going to introduce Minta Moore, and she is going to host a panel. But I want to say a little bit. Minta Moore, along with Michael and Mary Bell, are going to be visiting and on a panel. And I'm going to let each of them tell you about themselves. But let me say a little bit about Minta. Minta has been at this issue since day one. She's never given up. She's fought. She's been a great resource to me. She educated me a lot on how to become aware. And she really kind of helped me to see this is a fire that needs to be put out. So Menta is with New Life Refuge Ministries. She's been on the forefront of trying to help families and victims. It's just an important issue. So I want everybody to know how dedicated she's been, spreading the word, trying to make sure everybody understands not only how awful this is, but how to be aware, how to find out, and to hold your hands out and help children and families on a place to stay. And so I know, Menta, you've got Maribel and Michael that'll be helping you on the panel. I'm going to turn it over to you, let you all three kind of tell everybody a little bit about your backgrounds, but thank you. And at this time, Menta, it's yours.
Thank you so much, Representative Hunter, for inviting me to be a part of this today. And thank you so much to you and Secretary Hughs for your leadership in this area in our state. And Secretary Hughs, I just want to tell you how much I truly appreciate you highlighting the fact that what we're talking about here are children, because I have heard so many times children referred to underage women or underage prostitutes. And so I do really appreciate that. I do feel like things are changing a lot since I got into this line of work almost 10 years ago. And so anyway, really appreciate both of you. Just a quick little bit about myself. I don't want to take too much time here, but I am Minta Moore, and I am the founder and executive director of New Life Refuge Ministries. In case, for those of you that don't know, we have a long-term refuge for child victims of trafficking. Our organization has kind of 3 pillars. So our refuge is one pillar. We also do a lot of education on the issue and trainings. And so that's our second pillar. And then in addition to that, we really work hard to establish partnerships to fight this crime. We've had the opportunity through our educational program to train several of the hotel workers that are affiliated with ZJZ Properties. Let me tell you that the hotel owners of Corpus Christi that are affiliated with ZJZ Properties have been cutting edge on getting their people trained. And so I felt like that Texas Business Against Trafficking is some place that they should definitely be a part of, because they have been a Texas business against trafficking. And, you know, I just to kind of echo what Secretary Hughs said about the COVID time, this is certainly great breeding ground for traffickers. Unfortunately, while our lives have really stopped, theirs have not. Their tactics have just really gone online, knowing that that's where our kids are, and that the kids are bored and looking for anything to do. And so they have really capitalized on that as well. And so I'm really super appreciative to share this stage today with Michael Ilse. He has been a really great asset and good friend to New Life Refuge Ministries over the years, and his work is phenomenal. And also what an honor it is to be here with Maribel and the Purple Door. So I'm going to turn it over to Mike at this point.
Thank you, Minta. Can everybody hear me? Keep your head. Okay. Hello, my name is Mike Ilse. I'm a detective with the Corpus Christi Police Department, and I'm assigned the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. I've been with the police department for 29.5 years, and have been investigating crimes involving children since about 2007. But I've been with the ICAC Task Force since 2014. And during that time, my partner, Detective Alicia Escobar, and I have had opportunities where we've investigated cases involving human trafficking of children. And I like what y'all are saying, that these are not prostitutes, these are not women, these are young children. The youngest age, and actually the average age of a child being trafficked, is 11 years old. Imagine that. 11-year-old. If you have an 11-year-old child, that's one of the youngest ages that children are being trafficked. And I like what they mentioned about the social media, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. But you know, with COVID, children are home now. They're home a lot, and sometimes they're home. What would you say? Alone. And traffickers are using those opportunities, social media, to recruit children into trafficking. Corpus Christi Police Department has, since about 2016, been investigating numerous cases involving human trafficking. We were very instrumental in investigating a case involving a subject who trafficked a 15-year-old girl, and basically Corpus Christi is kind of like a hub area, the Gulf Coast area. You know, when you have trafficking going from Houston, Austin, San Antonio, Corpus Christi, basically in that rounded area. And so we were very instrumental in working a case in 2016, one of the very first cases that we prosecuted through the Nueces County District Attorney's Office. And we have an excellent prosecutor by the name of Michelle Putman, who has been investigating our human trafficking cases and working with the Attorney General's office in how to do those. And so based on that, many of y'all know Backpage is one of the social media sites that was very instrumental in trafficking girls and boys in human trafficking. And through the federal government and the Texas Attorney Generals and the Nueces County District Attorney, one of our cases was utilized to bring the CEOs of Backpage.com to trial for human trafficking, and that's huge for Texas. And the case that we worked was the very first one we prosecuted in Nueces County, and the subject by the name of Jovan Miles, and he received 44 years in prison for trafficking a 15-year-old girl. I want to mention why it's so important that we have organizations like MENTA, especially with that particular case. This is a 15-year-old girl that we rescued at 1:30 in the morning, and now that we have her, what do we do with her? Do we take her back to her family, or she didn't live in Corpus Christi? And we didn't have that time. We didn't have a place to take children, but because of the work that Menta has done, we now have a resource that we can use to take these trafficking victims and give them a safe place to be, and realize that they do not have to go back to their traffickers. Oftentimes in our cases of traffickers, get these girls to believe that nobody is going to trust them, nobody's going to believe them, and that's what they do. That's how they work on their psyche. And so a lot of the victims might not want to talk to us, thinking that they're just going to be able to go back to the trafficker. And the trafficker believes that. But we are not. But we don't stop there. We continue to push and push and push so we can get these victims in safe places, so we can get these cases, and we work the cases very, very hard. It takes a lot of work to track down hotels and track down where victims are, and track down witnesses, and track down Johns that are looking to purchase these young girls and boys. And so it takes a lot of work, a lot of investigation, and traffickers depend on us not wanting to do our jobs and not doing them well to know that they're going to get away with it. But in Corpus Christi and in the state of Texas, and I've talked to many investigators that work trafficking cases, we're very vigilant when it comes to working our cases, and very vigilant in getting all that we need for the district attorneys to prosecute these cases. And so been successful in that. We currently have several cases pending on human trafficking that we've rescued a 16-year-old girl, we rescued a 17-year-old girl, and those cases are pending right now with the district attorney's office. We also understood that we need the use of groups like MENTA, and a lot of NGOs, not just law enforcement. So several years ago, we created the Coastal Bend Border Region Human Trafficking Task Force, where we have several different NGOs as part of it, Dr. Kathy Miller and Brad Scott with Homeland Security. And just to mention that we do utilize our federal counterparts, Homeland Security and the FBI, to try and get these cases federally as well. And so with that, because we're a border region, we are trying to bring in as many law enforcement and NGOs as possible to help with resources when it comes to trafficking victims. Like Secretary Hughs said, Texas has been #2 when it comes to trafficking for several years, and we still are. I teach human trafficking cases for our academy but also to civilian organizations. And it's disheartening to say that in 2016 I was saying, hey, we're number 2. In 2018, we're number 2, and still we're number 2 when it comes to human trafficking. And because of the work with Todd Hunter and Secretary Hughs and others, Attorney General, we're trying to change that. And it makes us feel better as far as law enforcement. A lot of times our cases, we're reactive when it comes to working cases. We rely on getting tips from Polaris and the National Human Trafficking Task Force to get our cases. But when we get them, we work them to their finish. I like what she talked about hotels and the businesses, because it's working. We have been educating a lot of the hotels on what it means to recognize human trafficking. And it takes detectives to go there and teach these individuals, the managers and those that work in hotels. And you know what? It works, because about a year ago, we received a call from Polaris that a hotel recognized something that looked kind of weird to them, that a young girl that appeared like she was being trafficked. And they wouldn't let them stay in that hotel. They had been there before, but they wouldn't let them stay. And so they left. The trafficker left with his victim, but the hotel started calling a lot of other hotels and say, hey, we think something's going on here. And eventually we were able to track down that subject and rescue a 15-year-old girl. And that subject ended up getting 18 years in prison. But it was because of the education of the hotels that we are successful in being able to rescue a young girl. And so we need to keep doing that, putting up signs in these hotels and in truck stops and all these different places that educate people in trafficking. And we've been trying to do that. I mentioned the social media back page, but like I said, a lot of kids are home alone right now. And we try to go out to the schools and educate them on social medias and the dangers of some of the social apps, because these guys get on there and they pretend to be young kids, and they gain the trust of the kids they're playing games with, or just texting with, or Snapchatting, whatever it is, or whatever sites they're on. And once they gain their trust, next thing you know, these kids are gone. They believe they're talking to a young child, and they're not. They're talking to an adult. They come and meet with them, and next thing you know, that child's gone. And so we're still doing as much as we can to educate parents on social media and the social media sites and how dangerous it is, especially right now with COVID, because we're seeing an increase on online solicitation cases based on social media. So it's very important that we in Texas continue to strive to educate other individuals, and educate Texans on the dangers of some of the social media. So not all dangerous, but when it comes to these guys that are looking for children, that's become a good social value for them. Like I said, it's been really great educating like the hotels and some of the other businesses. And I've been called by some businesses, hey, can you talk to us and come give a presentation on human trafficking? And I love doing that stuff, because their eyes open up when they see the statistics when it comes to human trafficking, especially in Corpus Christi, because oftentimes they think, what, it's a third world country problem. But it's not. It's a $32 billion business in the United States of trafficking children. These are young children. Like I said, when you think about someone as young as 11 years old being trafficked, it's just horrific. And so I really want to say that I enjoy working in cases involving trafficking, but I don't, because I know what it means to these victims. But once I get one, and my partner, Alicia Escobar, get one, we work it to its fullest, because we need to stop these traffickers. We need to stop these individuals. And we need to take Texas from being number 2, get them off that statistic. And I think through the use of all those that I'm seeing on the screen, everybody's resources that we have, we're going to move that way. And I really appreciate you all allowing me to come and talk this afternoon, and just tell you a little bit about what's going on in Corpus Christi. Again, we've been very successful in prosecuting several cases. 2 cases have actually gone federal, and 2 cases have gone through our state, and we've been very successful in getting the high penalties for that, thanks to Representative Hunter and the laws that are being changed. Continuous trafficking of persons is huge. And in Texas, what's amazing is that we do not have to prove that the trafficker knew the person's age. And that's huge in the law. That's very huge. And so thank you for Representative Hunter. Thank you for Secretary Hughs and all of you that work to help make my job a little bit better and easier when it comes to these trafficking cases. Thank you. I don't think I'm supposed to introduce anybody.
No, now we're going to go to Maribel.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. My name is Maribel Arredondo. I am the Sexual Assault Services Coordinator for the Purple Door. I'm so honored to be amongst the panelists here talking about such a crucial topic. So a lot of the services that we offer are non-residential and residential services. The non-residential services that we offer are for anybody in Nueces County and the 12 counties that surround us that has ever been a victim of sexual violence, including human trafficking. Some of the services that we offer is obviously the counseling services, but we can also offer it to the family members, which is so important because a lot of times the loved ones, friends, families don't know how to assist their loved ones who have been trafficked. And so we can offer our services to them as well as the victims themselves. We also offer legal advocacy, whether that means getting a protective order, changing their names to be able to remain safe, or even if that means going and somehow being able to relocate them outside of Texas or outside of Corpus Christi. We are able to work with several safe shelters all across the country to find out where is the best place for them to go. If they don't have family that is safe here in Corpus or in Texas, we're able to relocate them, get them their birth certificates, their IDs, because a lot of times all that stuff is taken away from them by their traffickers so that they are vulnerable to them. And so we are able to work with them to get all of those important documentations back for them. We also have a safe shelter that we have been very fortunate that has not had to close. We've been able to remain open the entire time during this pandemic. It is a safe shelter open 24 hours every day of the week. Should anybody in anywhere need safe shelter, they can come to us and we will open our doors to them and begin to work with them in whatever capacity that may be. We also do offer a sexual assault response team, which can go to the hospital and be there if a victim goes to the hospital needing a SANE exam or a rape kit done. We're able to be there with them, be that support system. If they need to go to our shelter from the hospital to stay safe and remain safe, we will transport them to our shelter from the hospital, and then again begin working with them on that. Another one of the services that we offer is our educational pieces. We are able to go into the school systems, go into different businesses, and educate on online sexual violence, what the signs are to look for, what the signs are to look for the red flags of human trafficking, kind of be on the lookout as well for signs if they suspect somebody, and if they do suspect somebody, where to point them in and what resources are available to them out in our community. Again, thank you so much for having me here. I am honored to be amongst the panelists.
So Natalie, do you have some questions for us?
Yes, sir. We do have a few questions for all of our panelists. I'd like to start with one question for Secretary Hughs. Secretary Hughs, we have a variety of small business owners here represented today, as long as a lot of nonprofit organizations and higher education. How do you feel is the best way for people to get involved with getting training here in the Coastal Bend for this serious issue?
Thank you, Natalie, and thank you for that question. Certainly, other than the local resources that are tremendous, direct access to that labor force in Texas, and so they're really uniquely positioned to combat this crime, which is why I think it's wonderful that the legislature created an opportunity outside of the criminal prosecution, also for businesses to come together and prevent the crime by really committing to training their employees. And so if you go to our website, sos.texas.gov, you can get more information about the TBAT program, or the Texas Businesses Against Trafficking program. And the opportunity here is to sign up so that we can really have that strength of numbers to work with businesses across the state and across communities to come together and really commit to fighting it, commit to making sure that their employees are trained and knowing where to reach out when they need to. Of course, if people have concerns, they've got the Nueces County Sheriff's Department, the Corpus Christi Police Department. There are many resources, including the National Human Trafficking and Resource Center, the 1-888-737 373-7888, and you can Google that number. But if you call that National Human Trafficking Center, they can also help guide you in the right direction. You have many great leaders that you've heard from today on the call that are also standing by to be of assistance and to offer that help and to be those resources. So you don't need to feel that you are alone. We welcome the opportunity for businesses who are already committed to fighting this to formalize that commitment in partnership with the state by becoming a TBAT member, having that digital seal of membership and the decal they can put on their businesses, making sure people know, because we really don't want to catch it as much as we want to prevent it. And that's where I'm excited to be able to play a role in this position and with this office to really help prevent it and get ahead of it by partnering with businesses to train everyone and to bring real awareness. So those are some suggestions. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Those are excellent resources. And I think someone previously mentioned some of our current businesses, such as ZJZ Hospitality, who are doing an excellent job in the Coastal Bend. So thank you so much for that, Secretary Hughs. Representative Hunter, we've had a couple of questions come in for you. A couple of things have come up. Is one question is you mentioned some new laws that are needed. Can you expand a little about the new laws that are going to be needed in the next few years, and talk about any additional legislation coming up in 2021 that you plan to tackle?
Yeah, thanks. And this kind of the call to action to get folks involved. Menta's aware of this. First, I'm going to be requesting an interim study on anti-human trafficking. Coastal Bend came to me. We did this before. We're going to continue it again. This allows a year and a half for public folks that are on this call to have input into development of new laws. That will be one. Second, we need to strengthen some of the laws for the prosecutors. We've got to clarify the statute. Like what was said, is you have to clarify sometimes what is prostitution versus human trafficking when you're dealing especially with children. So you're going to see prosecution tools legislation, also data collection. We need to do what we can to increase data collection so everybody knows who's prosecuting, who may be ignoring. We need to make sure we're doing everything we can to show a tough prosecution. And our Nueces County, let me tell you, we've done a good job here, but we need to see how it's happening throughout the state, because it just doesn't stop in one area. Also, as Secretary of State said, we've got to look at cyber trafficking, and we got to look at internet trolling. What's happened is, especially during the pandemic, everybody is glued to social media. Everybody's glued to their phones or their computers or their internet. And you've got to watch out, because some of the susceptibility are traffickers going online, luring children. And so we're going to have to look in those areas. During the last session, there was SB 1801, SB 1802 that went into effect September 2019 by Senator Huffman, myself, and Representative Sanfronia Thompson had sponsored one of those, and I was involved with both. Those dealt with orders of non-disclosure and some prosecution areas. What we've got to do is refine them. And so we'll be dealing with a lot of the anti-human trafficking groups, law enforcement, Purple Door, CASA, to try to get from them what is updated to be placed in the law. And I've been cautioned by law enforcement that you have to watch your language when you put it into statute, because some terminology basically helps the situation than prevents it. And so we will do what we can to develop the laws. But those are the general categories. Yes, I will be filing them. Yes, I will be involving these groups, and we will be plugging everybody in, and that'll give you kind of an outline where we're going. There'll be others as well when I confer with some of the state senators and state representatives.
Excellent, thank you. So another question that has come up, and I'll direct it to Maribel from the Purple Door. Maribel, I think with the start of school, we have some people on the go-to meeting today wondering if the schools, are being educated, and if children who are being trafficked are also attending school while this is happening. So the schools being educated, and what do we do from, again, with this group, how do we help our schools and our students there?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Thank you for that question. We are absolutely going into the schools, any schools we are going to every school possible, asking, can we come in and educate the staff and the faculty about the red flags, looking at truancy. Is there a student that all of a sudden isn't attending school on a regular basis who used to be? A child who used to have A's and now is dropping their grades, or a child who now is having iPhones and, looking like they're bringing in a lot more money or something like that, and those nature. So yeah, we're definitely educating the schools whenever they invite us in. We are absolutely educating students as well whenever we can go into the classrooms, and now we talk to the students in classrooms about online sexual violence, the safety of it, how to stay safe when you're online, how to they themselves look for red flags, and doing whatever we can to help educate them.
Thank you, Maribel. Detective Elsie, I'll direct this next question to you. This one is actually concerning the traffickers involved. The question is, what is a typical prison sentence for a human trafficker? And also, how long are they actually staying in the prison system?
Well, the time that they get in prison depends on, obviously, a lot of times it's the jury or the judge. There are amounts, term limits set for how much someone can get. We've had individuals who have trafficked young girls and boys and go from 18 years in prison up to the highest we've gotten is 44 years in prison. So it's a gamut of time. A lot of that depends on the nature of how they were trafficked. If they use social media, trafficking the victim from place to place. And then, there are certain limits of how much time they can get. We obviously try to get a jury to give us as much time as possible. The very first one we did, the subject had no criminal history whatsoever. Yet because of the heinous crime of human trafficking, he received 44 years in prison. So it can go from, a short time to a long time. And how long they stay in, of course, they can be subject to, parole hearings and things like that. We hope they stay in for the length of time that they get.
Thank you. And Representative Hunter, I think we have time for one more question, if that's okay with you. And I'd like to finish up with one more question for Secretary Hughs. So this comes from Bob. He says, one of my concerns is the status of people brought over national borders for trafficking purposes. If they are rescued, how are they treated on the issue of immigration?
So I think the question is, how are victims of human trafficking treated on immigration? And of course, immigration is such a complicated topic for our state and for our federal government, who manages many of those immigration issues, and currently is seeking to address those things. But obviously here in Texas, we're going to treat victims as best we can in terms of saving them from situations and seeing how we can provide them with the best resources available. So, I'm not sure that I'm fully understanding the question in terms of if you're talking about someone who's come over illegally or been trafficked, but I can assure you that we're committed in Texas to making sure that that we get rid of and combat human trafficking to the fullest extent. So we would certainly pursue that the way we would other matters, and then address the immigration issues in due course and through the proper channels.
Thank you so much, Secretary Hughs, and thank you for spending the event with us. We really appreciate your time.
Natalie, thank you, and I'll close it up for everybody. I want to thank everybody for coming. I also want to thank Tammy and Natalie and Del Mar College for helping us with this event. As a reminder, we're going to do this as a series. There's going to be 2 more at least, and we'll be getting back with everybody on the dates. And if you want to get involved, please contact my office. One of the next series will be involving prosecutors at the state, federal level. We'll be involving the Nueces County District Attorney's Office, as well as into the federal prosecutor's office. And we'll be giving you more details on that as we're coming up. Also, I want to thank Purple Door and New Life Refuge Ministries. And thank you, Mary Bell, Michael, and Minta for being part of this. We appreciate you very, very much. And I want to remind everybody, the hotline, the National Human Trafficking Hotline, 888-373-7888. Make sure if you see anything, need any information, call that hotline. And remember, this is a call to action. If you want to get involved, contact our office. The best laws come from folks like you because you see it, it comes from us. It makes a lot of sense, and we want to do what we can to stop this statewide. What is my goal? I want Texas to have the best laws possible so we have the model for the rest of the states to follow. That's the goal. And I can tell you, we're making good progress in this state. You've got a very, very good group in our community, and I can tell you, thanks. Everybody, great conference. Let's keep it going. Let's save lives and let's save people. Thanks a lot.